Welcome everybody to Today in Space. We have a really special and unique episode. It's about 3D printing and iterative design. These two fundamental pieces that are behind this podcast. You know, we have our AG 3D printing lab, which we help bring ideas to life and into reality with 3D printing and enabling anyone who has an idea to make changes to a design before they go to market. And that's what's really specific about this episode. But iterative design just is a process. It's a process of making small changes on a rapid deadline, and being able to do it very, very quickly, especially compared to the traditional way of making things. SpaceX themselves uses this philosophy with their spacecraft development, and in fact, we're seeing that today with the development of the Starship spacecraft in Boca Chica, Texas, in a massive grand scale. And today, we have the honor of sharing the story behind one of our customers for AG3D, two human beings who were kind enough to give me their business when I was first just starting out, and now their product is about to launch on Kickstarter, and we couldn't be happier for them and to have them on to talk about it. So please welcome Jack Collins and Mike Sullivan, the creators of Snap Color, which goes live on Kickstarter October 13th, correct?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Welcome to the show, guys.
Good to be here.
Thanks for having us, Alex.
Yeah, of course. So give the folks a little bit of background about you guys. Tell us about yourselves.
Sure. So Jack and I are two college friends. We both went to school in D.C. and we lived together for a number of years. And we kind of had, sort of ambitions for other, kind of side jobs that are, normal place of work, and just kind of were kicking around ideas. And, we eventually ended up just kind of getting to this pain point of, people getting frustrated with shirts. So it kind of just started as a, curiosity thing, and then we really started pulling on those strings and realized there was something there.
So you guys are roommates. You guys basically were hanging out, figured, oh, we've got this problem, we want to solve it, and then you guys kind of were like, is there a business behind this? Am I right in kind of summarizing that?
Yeah, exactly. I actually think the first time we talked about it, we were out at a bar with some friends, and Mike and I got to talking, and he was discussing this pretty particular problem with shirts that, we were young professionals at the time, so our wardrobes they kind of were what they were. We didn't have a lot of disposable income to update them to replace shirts. We were kind of at the mercy of, normal wear and tear, our washer dryer, and the effect that it had on the shirt. So, yeah, we're thinking of ways to help people like ourselves, people who are just starting out, who didn't have the disposable income to maintain a professional wardrobe, but still needed to look good. And that's kind of how Snap Color was born. Then we just stereotypically started drawing on a napkin, and things went from there.
The two things there. First, the idea, talking about it at a bar. I mean, it doesn't get any more classic than that. I think it's a great place where ideas bubble around, and that's where you find this stuff out. And so you guys wrote it down on paper. Was there a decision point? Like, was it that night at the bar when you guys really, like, you could say was the moment you guys decided, or was it a little bit after? Was there a single point that you can think of?
I can point to one, and I can tell you exactly where I was sitting in our living room, where, Jack and I kind of both came to the realization, that we were looking to kind of do something different, be a little more creative than kind of our typical 9-to-5ers. And I kind of said, here's the thought, and here's what's out there. And he said, all right, let me see what's out there and get back to you. And then, probably about 3 days later, Jack came back and he's like, I'm in. And that's really where we started right there. And
were you guys like bouncing ideas off with friends and family and just trying to like, cause that's an interesting thing that I don't think a lot of people get to, where an idea starts, like you guys kind of had to figure out, is this worth me jumping into this? Was there a little bit of that in those kind of 3 days?
Yeah, I think, naturally you want to go to friends and family. Obviously, they're the most trusted people in your network. It's kind of a safe space. You know that they'll probably be supportive, and that was definitely our experience. But yeah, we were able to intuit whether or not there was actual enthusiasm for something like this. And the unanimous consensus was, yeah, if there was something like this on the market, a lot of our friends would buy it. So small sample size, but that was enough to get us going and to start us on this path to take an idea and make it something, tangible that people will be able to use.
We also had a pretty good litmus test a couple weeks later that, Jack and I went to an early pitch competition where it was essentially literally an elevator pitch. You had a minute, no slides, no, you can't bring anything. So we went in and pitched it for a minute, and we got through to the second round. They're like, "It's great. What's it look like?" And we were just kind of like, we kind of had the pain point. We had the customer base. We had everything fleshed out, but it was really the vehicle to get there was yet to be solved. So it was kind of good for us to pitch some real people. Those judges were, actual either, VC investors or people who had done startups or, people who worked in kind of, helping foster entrepreneurs. And, they thought, hey, there is something here. You've described pain points that, are certainly, felt by people in different income ranges, age areas, genders. I mean, it's a pretty ubiquitous problem. So that really helped push us forward too.
Yeah, I mean, the collared shirt itself, I mean, I have some, I'm looking at one in a closet across from me right now, where the collar's all mangled up. It's probably been thrown through the dryer a bunch of times, and it probably shouldn't have. It probably should have just been hung up. But hey, that's what happens. And so I when we first talked about this problem originally, I mean, right away for me, I was in almost immediately because I've had that problem, and I think that's always the good thing about an idea. Now, how long did it take from you guys decided you're going to do it to now you're at the Kickstarter?
I think we're about 4 years at this point.
Yeah, that's
really the first kind of two were the design phase of just kind of getting the product, finding the right vendors to help us design it, and then being able to test it. So and like you said, the rapid testing was key. So
yeah, and that's one thing I think a lot of people who have an idea, they kind of they kind of lose steam when they realize really how long it's going to take. Were you guys, I guess just to give people context, were you guys working regular jobs still, kind of working on this kind of the midnight hour? How did that work for you guys? And has it changed over those 4 years?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we both, as Mike said, we both have careers. I'm on my third job since this started. So, working at least 40 hours a week, personal life, social life, the whole deal, trying to balance all of that. It's been slow at times, and at other times we've accomplished a lot in not a very long period of time either. So it's ebbed and flowed, definitely. We have plenty of responsibilities, but this is definitely an idea that's never really died. We've still had enthusiasm for it. We found time, if it's an hour here, hour there, then that's what it is. But like Mike said, we've been at it for years, and we're hoping to see this through to the end.
Awesome. That's awesome. I have a surprise. I have one of the early prototypes here that I'll show in a second. But I want to know why did you choose 3D printing? Like, when was it, and what was your initial, like, we should do 3D printing?
So I think that it was exactly what Mike said at the elevator pitch competition when he made it to the next round, and we were ecstatic. To your previous question, we were up really late working on our pitch, kind of refining it, trying to think what the judges would want to hear, how can we get our point across. But the biggest obstacle and kind of the elephant in the room was we had nothing to show. So the best we could do was describe it and kind of take attention away from the fact that we had nothing to show and hope that our enthusiasm and the idea itself would bridge the gap. And it was enough to an extent, but it obviously showed how much further we had to go. That's when we really realized we need something to put in people's hands. We need a way to make people see it. A lot of the competitors in that competition, they were pitching mobile apps, which obviously there are a bunch of great ones out there, but you can deal in abstraction there because it's intangible. Whereas we were talking about a tangible product that didn't exist in any form yet. So we were deciding how to go about it, what would be the quickest way, and then Mike had the idea for 3D printing. Went back to his network again, as you mentioned earlier, family, friends, see who might be able to help, and I think that's how we made our way to AG3D, and I feel like you're about to show what we came up with after our first couple of calls. So.
And to dive into that, Jack, I met through this. Mike and I grew up together. We went through school together. Just to toot his horn just a little bit here, Mike was always the kind of guy that was doing something, or he always had like a second job. Like when we were in high school, you were taking like all the AP tests, so you could just kind of skim through freshman year. I mean, you were a hustler, and I mean, I think that was something you've had for a really long time. Jack, has that been the same for you with like wanting to do a business? Has it always been something you wanted to do?
Not necessarily. When I was younger, I wanted to be a writer, and I still do it in my spare time. I love it. Read a lot, watch a lot of classic movies, and just appreciate the writing there. But I never really saw myself owning my own business. I give Mike a lot of credit because he is exactly that kind of person that you described. So he's helped me come a long way, certainly. And yeah, I don't know if it's only certain types of people who are going to end up owning their own business, or if there's just inspiration that comes for some people and doesn't come for others. Fortunately, it's come for me, and here we are.
I'll say I didn't realize I was an entrepreneur until later. It was probably at some point in college. My mom was telling me a story. She's like, I knew this would, be you when I owned a tanning salon in college, or part owned. She was like, I remember you were at summer camp, and one of the counselors called me over, and you got in trouble for upselling candy. You would go to the store, buy the candy, and then bring it back to the younger kids and sell it there. And I didn't recall that story at all. So once she told me that, I think it's a bit more ingrained than learned. But Jack and I complement each other well, so it's been good because, really when you own and this, Alex, when you own a small business, there's always more to do. There's always something else you can do. There's always more outreach to be done. There's always, some thread, but, Jack's great at thinking strategically as far as, what is the high value thread for us to pull? Where can we really maximize our value because our time is scarce? We don't, we have 9 to 5s. We're not able to plow 80 hours into this. We got to be strategic with our 8 to 12 that we do, weekly or biweekly or whatever. So
yeah, no, and that complimenting thing, like that really is something that's so important, especially in a business. Like, and I think for me what I've learned is to figure out what I do well, and not so much outsource, because I'm not quite at that point where I can just outsource the work and have employees and stuff like that. But knowing what I'm good at is, and it's important for anyone that's doing a business. I mean, the fact that you guys can know enough to complement each other and to work together, I mean, that's when a good company is formed. I think when a good idea has a chance of surviving, it's because of that. So that's really, I think that's great. Let's show off. So this is one of the first prototypes. We were trying to figure out a way to get the collar fold over, because in my mind, if we were going to get this to be dynamic, we were thinking, I think, slim fit, and we were thinking, let's figure out a way to make the packaging real slim. And so we made a 3D printed hinge, and I think this went like above and over the collar. It was just hey, let's throw something against the wall. What was that experience for you guys? Like, was that a big aha moment for you? What did those early days do for you in the iterative, like, oh, this is real, we can make this?
I think that was helpful for us to kind of put something on the wall to kind of see where the strengths and weaknesses were. So kind of what do we like in this? Where does it fall short? So, kind of with every process, we would kind of, almost try to poke holes at our own design and think, okay, where does this, deliver on, what the value add is and where it doesn't. So that was one where, that model worked great only if it was folded flat. And then we kind of got thinking, okay, what if someone hangs it up? Or, does that take care of the inside parts? Maybe we need pressure. So it was kind of every step we did learn something. So that was helpful. So I'd probably say we've been through at least 7 or 8 different designs. I think we went through about 4 with you. We had another one. We got about 1 or 2 designs. And then our current one, we've done about another 2 or 3. So yeah, it is, kind of baby steps, but it's really trial and error, because you need to hold the product and really understand this, where it adds value and where it, maybe falls short.
Right. And just to add on to that, beyond taking it from a concept and making it into something tangible that people can hold, obviously that was huge for us. Me personally, I just gained a real appreciation for the complexity and how much work goes into designing something that, at first glance is pretty simple. As we've gone through this and we've come up with other ideas, be it living hinges or where the snap collar is going to curve and how it's going to fit the collar. we've had conversations about like other household items and the amount of work that goes into designing those, the things that people use every day and they kind of take for granted and they don't realize how difficult it is to design something and then make it happen. So I'm by no means an expert. I know a bit more than I did 4 years ago, but I certainly have a real appreciation for just the amount of work that goes into getting something even to that point where it can be made into something that people can hold.
No, and that's a huge, I think one of the big things about rapidly iterating and I think for you guys, and I think this is the same for when people are wondering, why should I spend money on 3D printing? It's, people look at the initial number and it's like, it's a little bit more expensive than if you've got a $1 million mold and you're cranking out 1 million parts. Like, those parts are going to be cheap. But the added value of letting you guys learn and letting you guys have that appreciation, I think it's hard to put a number on that, especially in the early days when you're really looking with an idea, when you're looking for, how do we, is it good? Like, you're always kind of testing, like, we like it, but, does it work? And from a scientific perspective, that's how any idea in science gets through. You pose a hypothesis, which is what you guys did. It's like, hey, let's put this idea out there. It hits the road. The rubber meets the road. You figure out, okay, I don't like that design. Let's change it this way. And now you guys have ended up where you are because you guys have gone through the gauntlet, if you will. So I think it's awesome. Do you guys have a model with you guys right now?
I do.
Awesome.
And one thing I'll say to kind of go back to the iterative 3D printing, it really lowers the barriers to entry. I mean, Jack and I were able to pay for this at the early stages out of our pocket with our decent, full-time salary. We weren't in any way, raking it in, but we were able to kind of spare a few hundred here, a few hundred there, as the project went along. We're able to fund it that way. So it really does help people, even if you're just going to test it. It's so much more reasonable than if you're going to go get an injection mold. I mean, we're getting quoted ones now in the five-figure range. I mean, it's very much, it's not measure twice, cut once. It's, measure 10 times, cut once, because once you click buy, it's over. If you want to make some tweaks down the road, that is expensive. So really, 3Ds, we can always kind of go back and say, let's try this one tweak. Let's make sure this works, or let's rule this out. Because a couple hundred now is, nothing down the road when it comes to, 5-figure investments. Right. So that said, I do have our final prototype. So luckily we have a white background here. So this is it here. So still has kind of the horseshoe shape. So as far as the design went, one of the big breakthroughs was we were able to get a living hinge up here on top. So we have 3. We have one close to the front to apply extra pressure to the front of the collar, and then 2 more. So essentially all you do is you slide up this hinge, and then this folds up, and then just kind of a, pretty basic living hinge in there. So that's what goes over. So one of the big breakthroughs for us was probably about 1.5 years ago, we were getting 3D printed hinges and they were brittle. I mean, we had one where, we tried to open up and just, try it for the first time. It literally snapped off, and it was, a couple $100, and we were pretty frustrated. And then, our designer came back to us and said, we do have a different material. It's kind of a nylon-based 3D print, so we can give that a try, and that's better with 3D hinges. And it wasn't until we got that could we actually put it in a customer's hand and say, here, try this, put this on, sit with this for a couple days, let us know what you think. Jack and I tried it on our own shirts. And that's what really pushed us forward, that we tried them on a couple, or we traveled with it because it's a great travel accessory. And then once we realized that, we're like, oh, now this really does work. We can really see it. And again, 3D printing got us right up to that point of this is essentially what it will be like when it's mass produced. And that was a huge confidence boost for us, that we now feel secure in going to our network and saying, we are behind this. We have tested this. It's ready.
Yeah, and I mean, just from an authenticity perspective, right? As a business, you want to be as confident in your product as possible, and having that, I mean, that's wild. So going to, like, where do you guys see this going? Where is this, like, who are the people that are going to benefit from it? Because my mind's going crazy thinking about it. The travel thing I hadn't even thought of. That's great, because I can't say how many times I've been in a hotel on a business trip, and I've got to maybe use their iron, and like maybe it's covered in rust, and you never know sometimes when you're staying at places. Yeah. But where else do you guys see this really hitting the market hard?
Well, like I mentioned before, we always kind of envisioned young professionals, college students, people with a budget, people with a set wardrobe, using it to kind of stretch their dollar, extend the life of the shirts that they already have, because that was us at one point. So that's we think that there's a big market there. We think that there's enthusiasm there, again, based on some of the market research that we've done. So that's always kind of been, our prototypical customer, so to speak. To your point, though, we really think that the sky is the limit for this. We think that people could take it on business trips to make sure their collars don't get smushed by the rest of their luggage, in flight. We think that companies could issue a snap collar to their employees when they give them 3 polo shirts as uniforms. They're working in retail or at the counter of a hotel, whatever the case may be. Clothing stores could sell it alongside shirts, fast fashion type places where maybe the material isn't that great. You're getting a deal, but that the material isn't quite up to snuff. This could extend the life of the shirt and put the customer first. So we really think that this could have a very wide reach. We've talked to a lot of people who said that they could see themselves using it, who are in different stages of life. So we're really excited to see where this can go.
So the Kickstarter campaign, let's talk about that. Is there anything to touch on about the campaign?
The Kickstarter has been interesting for us. I think we knew kind of early that would be a good fit for Snap Collar because it's a direct-to-consumer product. A lot of B2B or business-to-business entities wouldn't really do well on a Kickstarter given their markets elsewhere. So we thought there was an opportunity to kind of do a launch here, and it's almost a 2-for-1 where we are testing the market to make sure there is sufficient customer interest, and if there is, we're able to go then make that investment, and we're pretty confident we'll be able to get there. We've gotten some good support from GW is going to send out some George Washington University, where Jack and I went to school. So they have an entrepreneur department who will help us promote this. We got a couple Instagram influencers who are going to, help put it out in the DC area. So really it's, like Jack said, it's really a lot of different use cases and sky's the limit. So really just trying to get maximum number of, eyes to see the product because it is new. It's not, it's not a different shirt. It's not a different style. It's an entirely new product. So we're thinking something novel like that is best served on Kickstarter as opposed to, direct to Amazon or direct to stores or something like that.
Like I said, we're just super excited for you guys, and this is a really cool point for us to have played our small part in what you guys have done, and you guys let me play mad scientist, which is what I love to do with 3D printing. So anything else about the process of just like setting up a Kickstarter? I think there's so many people that have an idea and may want to do that. Were there any challenges doing that? Was there anything new that you kind of learned that you were like, oh, I didn't realize it was like this?
We've had a couple. It's a lot more of a marketing campaign than you would have guessed. We worked with photographers, we worked with graphic designers. Actually, my brother's doing the videography on this, so cool. More Sullivan network on this one. So it is a lot of materials to put together. You really can't just go and we couldn't copy and paste our elevator pitch. We had to really show that this is a real product. Here are the use cases. Here are the value adds. So the amount of media that went into it was somewhat surprising, but kind of once we got going, we had a pretty good idea, and obviously able to kind of borrow heavily from other successful Kickstarters and see what worked. Oh, we liked how they inserted GIFs here, or this video was pretty funny, or so just kind of being able to lean on the creativity of others was helpful for us.
Yeah, and again, we've done a number of business plan competitions through George Washington University School of Business, and some of the people who we were up against have launched successful Kickstarters, and we've been able to use them as a resource for advice, for questions on next steps, things that we have to do. I will say Kickstarter website is very intuitive. It's been relatively straightforward to set up, so that's certainly been an enormous help. But I think the biggest thing is just seeing people who were in our position at one point take their product and go and have a successful Kickstarter was what really made it attractive to us and made it a realistic step that we could, a goal that we could shoot for.
So where are you guys? Do you guys have multi-tiered goals? Can you guys share any of that before the launch? What can we expect for you guys for this campaign?
Yeah. So kind of pretty standard goals. So the kind of short or the smaller donor levels are really just different numbers of snap collars. So there's a 1, 3, and a 5 level pledge. There's also going to be stickers and postcards. Support the USPS. Obviously, the Kickstarter and postcards will be done after the election, so the mail service will have calm down a little bit. Everyone make sure you submit your votes by mail or go vote in person. But some of the later ones we're going to offer a Zoom call with a lunch or a dinner option. So there's going to be, I think it's a $500 for Zoom lunch or $1,000 for Zoom dinner. And then obviously that comes with a ton of snap collars. And we're hoping some of the people at higher levels kind of see this more as a gift opportunity. So, you buy 5 snap collars, you get one for dad, you get one for your uncle, you get one for your friend. This could be something you throw in groomsmen packages, kind of a good bachelor party idea. Just throw it in with a bunch of, knives or, flasks or, 5-hour energies, whatever you're gonna do. I can see this, going in something like a Spezza box or, something like that. So, so that's kind of where we're at for levels. We are going to have some limited amounts, so they're the early backers will save a little bit on the 1, 3, and 5 pack. But there's again, we're not setting a limit on however many we sell. So if we we're setting a goal of 20,000. If we blow past that, we're just going to keep on going. We got 30 days. Let's see what we do.
That's exciting, man. Like I said, we wish you guys all the luck. We'll be sharing this out there, spreading the word for you guys. To close out, do we have any final thoughts for, I guess, just Snap Collar and where you guys are today and maybe where you're looking to go in the future?
So it's been a journey, right? 4 years. You showed the first the first prototype that we ever made, and honestly, I had forgotten about that one. It was so long ago, and
is that the thing Batman throws?
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. It was so long ago, and it looks so much different now. And but we wouldn't have been able to get to this point without that, right? Without starting someplace, without building off of something. And it's been great. I've certainly learned a lot. I think that we can add value to a lot of people. I think that there's going to be enthusiasm for the product, and I'm just excited to see where it goes from here. It's been an awesome journey. Learned so much, made so many contacts I wouldn't have made otherwise, and I have every reason to expect that to continue happening. So I'm thrilled. I know Mike feels the same way, and it's been awesome.
Not that we need to really plug you on your own podcast, but a lot of that was helped with kind of having someone to kind of walk us through and show us how easy this was. I mean, we were a bit scared of 3D printing to begin with. We didn't know its use cases, how. I mean, we see stuff on the news where people are 3D printing houses or they're 3D printing like bike lanes in Denmark and stuff. But to be able to talk to you and go, no, really it's few man hours, a couple $100, and you can really get a design, just like that. So for anyone who's listening and you do have an idea, pull that thread a little bit, see what comes of it. I mean, you never know. I mean, it's really, there's a lot of businesses that fail, and there's some that work. So until you try to bring that product into the world, you won't know.
That's, again, just from the mad scientist perspective, like I love the idea of just literally bringing an idea into reality. And it's taken a long time for me to have the technical knowledge and understanding of that, but it is something that 3D printing faces. It's also any science can eventually look like magic. So to be able to shepherd you guys through that's the value I hope to add to anyone that reaches out, and just so glad that it worked out and we were able to get you guys where you were. So with that, let's close out real quick. A little bit of space. Do you guys have any space or sci-fi movies that you're loving? Because I'd like to give people just something if they're on a Friday night or they need a little escape from everything that's going on. Anything that you guys love?
I'm a big Gravity fan. I've always felt that never gets enough support for how almost disturbing it is. I mean, it's so quiet and cold and desolate in space, and it's really hard to get that across in that doesn't come across in Guardians of the Galaxy or Armageddon or a lot of those other movies. They call it The Last Frontier, but we forget frontiers used to be really scary. I mean, the frontiers in, the United States as they were exploring things, or the depths of the sea. I mean, there's a reason people don't go to these places. So I thought Gravity did a great job, and I think one of the best things was the fact that it had no soundtrack, where, really when it was quiet, it was dead quiet. You could hear yourself. So I'd plug Gravity. I mean, certainly probably tough to watch now as everyone's kind of isolated, but I thought that did Space a heck of a lot of justice.
I'm a big movie guy. Mike will be one of the first people to tell you that. Sci-fi probably isn't my forte, but if I had to pick a favorite, it still has to be Terminator 2, one of the best action movies of all time. Also, in addition to the action, just some interesting ideas about time travel and the space-time continuum, whatever you want to call it. What's the term I'm searching for, Alex?
No, yeah, you've got it. I mean, yeah,
Okay.
just that whole. I mean, that, and then with Skynet and everything in that movie. I mean, that movie gives you the chills of like what could come in the future. So, it seems closer and closer when you got things like Neuralink and stuff like that.
Yeah, and just interesting questions when you're not watching chases and things blow up. Like, spoiler alert for a 30-year-old movie, if at the end of the movie all the chips are destroyed, what did we just watch? Hasn't the future already been changed? Can you really change the future? Don't the Terminators know what's going to happen if John Connor is manifestly going to lead this rebellion in the future anyway? Like, don't they know they're doomed to fail? Movie kind of ignores those questions, or it doesn't answer them. Rather, it puts them there. And I think that that's enough. But yeah, I've seen that probably 50 times, and I'm sure it'll be 51 at some point soon.
Oh, for sure. So as someone that loves writing, is there any movie that just the writing of it, like you could watch it over and over again, or you're just like, man, like I can't believe what they did with that?
Can't think of any movie off the top of my head.
It's okay. Books are cool too.
Books are great too. I read Ulysses a few years ago for the first time, and that took a while. It took a lot of rereading. It's very dense, but and yeah, it's obviously of its time, but it's very funny. I was surprised how often I laughed out loud at some of what's in there. So that's great. Huck Finn is probably my favorite book. I've read it a dozen times at least. I think it was Hemingway who said that every American novel before Huck Finn is a epilogue to it, and every novel after is a prologue to it. Couldn't agree more. Those are the two that jump to mind immediately.
As Mike knows, thank you for sharing, first of all. But as Mike knows, I hated English. I think I literally
We got some
burned.
bad teachers.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you. So it's a subtle thing that doesn't get spoken very often. But you're right. But no, I mean, I remember we had an English class. The Scarlet Letter is one of those that I just hated reading, and everyone just had to read it. Catcher in the Rye was also one I loathed, but hey.
I'm one of the few people in my age group, I feel like, who managed to avoid Scarlet Letter. I had a very eccentric, very smart, but very odd English teacher in high school, and I hope he doesn't listen to your podcast. But he essentially said, yeah, we're not going to read. So we read a lot of American short stories, read a lot of poetry, and that was great. And what most people say, I dodged a bullet. I'm sure there are people like the Scarlet Letter out there, but it doesn't sound like they're on this call.
Well, I'm sure, at some point Alex will have to do a reunion show of the video he shot of the Scarlet Letter, I believe. So that footage is out there somewhere. I will give our high school credit of giving us a lot of good dystopian futures as far as, Fahrenheit 451, obviously Brave New World is another one, and then Piggy and Lord of the Flies and all that stuff. So they, there were certainly some to kind of get you going, but yeah, there was always kind of the snooze fest in between. But we came out on the other end okay.
That's true. We did.
Now you see why I'm an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Those days, man. It's funny. I only really thought about this recently, but all those movies we used to do. I mean, one of the great things about our teachers back in high school was in our town was they were very open to like creative ways to like, okay, if you don't want to write a report, you really hate it. All right, make a movie.
Yeah.
But make a movie, and like I took that option every single time. And we had a group of friends that there was like a whole pack of kids in town that were just, oh, I'm doing a movie for Spanish, oh, I'm doing a movie for English, and we were always like in each other's videos. I mean, some good times back in the day.
Yeah, the Norwood Screen Actors Guild is quite big.
Well, awesome, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it, and wish you guys good luck on the October 13th launch.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Look forward to having a great day. So, yeah, everyone check it out. We'll be sharing the link with the video here. And if anyone has questions, Snap Call or otherwise, please reach out to Jack and I. We're pretty accessible. We love talking to people. Thanks, Alex.
You're welcome. Last thing, is there any social media or anything else they should follow you guys on?
We are at Snapcaller on Instagram, and you can find Snapcaller on Facebook as well. So those are our big two right now.
Thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next time on Today in Space.